All right, and welcome back to my high school football championship series for College Football 26. Just a quick reminder that all teams featured in this series are available for download and import into your College Football 26 video game. Simply search for my username down there at the bottom, Dreadman94, and you can import any one of these custom-made teams for your College Football 26 video game experience. Excuse me, just remember that when you're searching, you need to search in the username search box and not in the keyword search box. All right, let's take a look at the weekly schedule. And we are in week 7. We're at the tail end of week 7. We just completed the first two games. We saw HL play South Lafourche, and we saw Morgan City play South Terrebonne on Tuesday night. Tonight, we're going to wrap things up with the final two games of the regular season. We're going to start with Thibodaux at Terrebonne, and then we're going to close out with a very key pivotal game uh, with Ellender at Central Lafourche, and we're going to see how the outcome on that turns out. So, with all that said, let's get to the gameplay. And here's our first matchup for the night. Thibodaux High Tigers versus the Terrebonne High Tigers, THS versus THS. This is a rivalry between these two teams. It's the THS versus THS rivalry. So that's what we are looking at. They've been rivals for quite a while. We're going to take a look at the uniforms, and Terrebonne is going to be wearing a bit of a custom uniform. I went with their classic home uniform today, but I threw on the away pants to give them the all red look there. So they've got that look going on tonight. And Thibodaux is going to be wearing a bit of a mix and match uniform combination here with their tiger gold helmet to give them that kind of a retro look for them. That's a style that they wore back in the 80s and late 80s and early 90s. They used to have that logo on the side, and then I gave them their away jersey with their gold home pants to complete that look. Once again, a bit of a retro look for them. So that is the matchup you see. It should be a close matchup. These were two teams that I expected to be in the hunt for a top position here at the end of the season. So when I scheduled this game, I really expected this to be a little more important than what it ends up being. But with the standings as they are, they're pretty much just playing for pride at this point. But we're going to see how it turns out. We've got clear skies and an 8 p.m. kickoff. We're going down to Houma, Louisiana under the Friday night lights. I'm going to kick it off to the broadcast booth now. And as always, I'll catch you on the other side once we see how this one shakes out.
Kickoff unit all lined up, and we're ready to put total in. And he takes this from inside the 5. He was hoping for something a little more dynamic, but they get him on the ground at the 20. Every team has impact players. What traits are you looking for when it comes to players who can make an impact, David?
Well, obviously, you want the main things, right? Speed, physicality, like all power, all those things are really, really good. But you also need guys that will hold people accountable, guys that will lead. And it's nice to have those guys on your team. They're the leaders of the team, and they're the best players.
And part of the reason why they're leaders is because these guys galvanize their teammates, right? We've seen time and time again, these dudes make plays, and it just sparks the sideline. It sparks the coaching staff. It sparks the fans. They're special players, and they all have to play well today.
Third down, and they'll need 2 on this initial drive of the game. The throw to the outside is complete. Works his way out to the 36-yard line before being pushed out of bounds. And on that 3rd and short, I don't think he was unhappy to see that zone.
Nope, it was a great job by the offense. Hey, see where the holes in the zone are? Sit down. You only need a little bit of yards on this 3rd down. Get the conversion. Move the sticks.
Running back searching catch, and he'll make it close to the 20-yard line. They've got the big fellas out there, a 3 tight end look on 1st and 10. The hand to the running back. Solid run, picks up 6 and gets it to the 28. 6-yard pickup on 1st down, leaves him with 2nd and 4. Wants to go up top. Makes the catch. And he's knocked down immediately, but not before he moves the chains. They've got it at the 37. It's 1st and 10. Wants to throw on 1st down. He's got it down the middle. Put it right on him. Sweet play. Good pickup, and they'll move the chains with the 1st down. Passing game kept his drive moving. Let's see if they try it again. Finds his tight end.
Nice quick throw there. It's so important for quarterbacks to be able to find momentum and to be comfortable and confident. You want to just get the ball out quickly, make it an accurate and easy throw. And you can tell that these two guys, they rep that play.
Oh, he's got some space. They'll finally get him on the ground, but not before he makes it to the 30 and gets a 1st down. They'll give it to him again. And there is nowhere to run. They were eager and ready for him this time around. Brown wants to pass. Catch in the middle. It's Johnson. They knock him down, but he's got enough to get it across the line and pick up the 1st down. They'll go to the ground. Wrestled down at the 8-yard line as they threaten deep in the red zone. It'll be 2nd down, and remember, they can pick up a 1st without scoring. Going to swing it on 2nd down. Dumps it to the back. And he drops it just a little too slippery in the hand. They'd love to pick up this 3rd down and get a fresh set with 1st and goal. On 3rd and long, try to convert through the air. He caught it. Doesn't quite make it to the 1st down marker. He's a yard short. So the offense is going to go for it on 4th down. Has to get there to move the sticks. He's not going to get there. Stops short on 4th down. 1st and 10 from inside their own 5. You got to take care of the ball, but there is room to take a shot here. Nice move. Oh, he broke out another move. Nice pickup on the ground there. They'll move the sticks for the 1st down. Man down on the play as the officials take a break to let him be checked out. Lot of yardage in front of them. 1st and 10 from their own 19. The short hands, it's Diggs. Using the pads, using the stiff arm, using all kind of strength to get it across the 25 to the 26. 2nd down, they'll go to the air. He makes the grab. They make the stop, and he'll have enough yardage for a 1st down. New set of downs after the completion. Looking downfield, it's Dixon. Flips it out on the screen. That'll get him on the ground at the 46, and it'll be a 1st down. So they'll go back to work after changing into the field. It's been a defensive battle through the 1st period, and the stats tell that tale. Let's see if the offenses can find a little rhythm as we start the 2nd quarter. The offense setting up shop at the 46, 1st and 10. Gonna look downfield again. Complete with conviction on the crosser. And he's brought down after a nice gain. It's a 1st and 10 from the 42-yard line. Looking to throw on 1st down. Unloads to the wideout. Just a Barishnikov-like move on the sideline to tap that toe and get the 1st down. injury on that last play, and we'll take a break to check him out. Second down coming up on this red zone opportunity. From the gun, the running back looking for room. He pushes his way down to the 4 as they get closer and closer. First and goal from the 4 as they try to break the seal on the scoring. Tight end now in motion. They'll use the running game on first and goal. This junior making his presence felt and making the stop after a short gain. He'll keep it himself. And he barrels into the end zone for a touchdown.
And you see the option being such a pain in the behind of the best programs in college football. When you got quarterbacks that have those multiple options, they're making you play very disciplined. And the QB takes it himself, gets in for the score.
Setting up for the extra point after the first score of the game. And the PAT makes it 7-0. They put it in the end zone with a 12-play scoring drive. They're ready to kick it away, and this crowd is buzzing after that last score. He'll start the return inside his 5. Didn't find any crease in that kickoff coverage, and he'll be stopped at the 17. And let's see what kind of ball plays this offense has ready. Holden finds his man on the left. Didn't pick up a lot there, moved it forward just a few. Backed up now, here's second and long. Brown will throw it. Under fire. And the Heat gets there. And they get him down at the 14-yard line.
And listen, the quarterback drops back. He's going through his progressions. We see zone, but just couldn't do anything about it. This defensive line, this pressure, getting to the quarterback, getting him on the ground.
Now a lot of work to do to move the chains, keep this drive alive after that earlier sack. On third and long, you'll have to turn it loose deep. Got a man, it's Johnson. Turning it off. And with that effort, they pick up a fresh set of downs. They have it at the 34-yard line.
Yeah, this defense is going to have a plan for this tight end, especially when he lines up in the slot, because there's a lot of different routes he can run, and because of his size and his wingspan, he's very, very difficult to cover.
Gets it out fast.
And that's a good job by the drag route there, understanding its zone coverage. So instead of continuing to run across the field, he settles down into an open spot, making it easy for his quarterback.
Makes the grab. Brought down at the 48 after a gain of 5. They'll line up right at the 48-yard line on first and 10. The RPO fired complete to the left. And a good job in coverage there as they stop it after just a few. What will they dial up on second and a long way to go? Back to pass. He's got it. They bring him down, but not before he's able to pick up the first down. Last completion moved the sticks, and let's see if they try it again. Quickly complete. Slips one guy, and now he's loose. They bring him down, but the big play will move the sticks.
It's really easy to say the word RPO and say I'm going to run them, but you got to make those decisions, and you got to make them fast. You can't get confused by all the craziness that's going on, by all the guys moving around or talking. Nice job by the quarterback, staying in the moment, seeing it, throwing the slant, making sure he makes the right decision.
Fires to the wideout. He got it. Makes the catch with defenders everywhere, and now the defense backed up with a first and goal from the 5. New center downs right on the doorstep for this offense. Keeping it on the ground on first and goal. And he's into the end zone for a touchdown.
And I love that this offense stuck to it, stuck to the run game, didn't panic. They got down, but they answered the bell right before the half, and they got this thing right where they want it now. They can tie this football game and hopefully go into the half with a lot of momentum.
for the extra point and the tie. And he made the extra point without problem. They're coming out to tee it up for the kickoff, and that last score was a real buzzkill for this crowd. On the move from inside his 5. Just never had a chance to shake loose, and he'll be brought down at the 24. They'll get things started on this drive from the 24. Looking downfield, it's Dixon. Got the quick pass. They'll spot the ball at the 34 as he goes out of bounds right there. Here's this offense with a fresh set of downs. Wants to go up top on first down. Zings it complete to the right. And he's able to bounce off one tackle, but still not a whole lot of running room. They'll try to kick it into overdrive. Clock's running. Second down coming. Looking to fire. Makes the grab. Ball is loose. Defense grabs the football, and there he goes.
Well, the quarterback got it to his receiver quickly and gave him an opportunity to make a few moves after the catch, but he's got to do a better job with ball security that time. That is a costly fumble.
Plenty of time to work, not any time to waste as they take over here in the final 2 minutes of the half. Looking downfield on first down. Just a short pass to the tight end. He's brought down quickly. Minimal gain there, still a bit short of the first down. The offense will have to use its first timeout of the half. Second down, he'll throw it. And he had it for a second, but it just dribbled out of his hands. Defense trying to come up with a stop on third and short from the 37. From the gun, wants to pass. Makes the grab on the left. The offense wastes no time getting the timeout call. Inside the 30 at the 29, it's a first down. Power football with the run. So much change of direction. He's down to the 23. The clock will stop with this timeout from the offense. They'll get a chance to regroup on the sideline. Brown wants to pass. And it'll be incomplete. This is some physical pass defense. Headed to the line at the 23, trying to convert this third and short. From the gun, wants to pass. It's caught. Just across the 20 with a first down at the 19. Clock stops momentarily for the first down. They'll hurry to the line. Every second is meaningful, and they save a few of them with the spike. They're dealing with a second and long. Back to throw, and they've got to be aware of the clock. And it's a touchdown.
And the offense breaks the tie, takes the lead, gains some momentum. How big is this, Palmer, now going into the half with the lead, with the momentum?
Well, they break the tie, but they also break their confidence a little bit now. The opponent now has to go into the locker room probably down, and they're wondering, what adjustments do we have to make? What do we have to fix? Because we've got our work cut out for us in this game.
Lining up to tack one more onto that lead. And the extra point is true, and they're on top by 7. So they covered 42 yards on the drive. Kickoff unit on the field, and this defense will be called on to protect this lead. Looking for those open spaces and opportunity. Didn't find any crease in that kickoff coverage, and he'll be stopped at the 17. First snap of this drive will come from their own 17. They'll start this drive going to the air. And the throw out to the sideline, good for just a few yards. Picked up some yardage with that completion, now second down. Leaves it with the running back. Makes one man miss.
And after that run, getting right back up to the line of scrimmage to go hurry up, defense has to be ready.
Clock still running, almost certainly the last play of the half. Scanning the field, it's Dixon. Short throw to the sideline, complete piece
job there, throwing in time, getting it to him in space, and allowing him to go to work. This is turning into a very nice statistical day for this wide receiver.
And this one will be stopped for no gain. Didn't get much on first down. It's 2nd and 9. Brown will throw it. Unloads to the wideout. It's caught. His defense giving up ground as he's finally knocked down at the 26.
And this defense is going to have their hands full because they're going to need to be comfortable with guys one-on-one on islands in the perimeter of the field. And they're just going to have to make better plays than what we saw right there. They knew this offense was going to try to be aggressive. Got to need better effort in the back end for this defense moving forward.
To the air on first down. I don't think that's the way they drew it up. Incomplete. Working well behind the sticks on 2nd down. After the incompletion, they go back up top. He almost had the pick, and that could have given them a boost. Instead, it'll be 3rd down. Just keep slinging it. He's got it. That will be enough to move the chains and give them a first down in the red zone at the 14. They're threatening to score, and they'll throw it. He's got it. They've got it down to the 3-yard line. Really well done on that throw and catch. This offense in scoring position with a fresh set of downs. Trying to mark in. He showed off a few moves, but not enough to get away from all of those defenders as they stop him for a loss. They give him the rock again on 2nd and goal. Didn't get much done on that run. He'll fight his way out and maybe pick up a yard. Wants to fire it in the end zone on 3rd and goal. Into the end zone. He's got it. Touchdown.
And how about the dinosaur, the fullback, getting involved in this game in the passing attack? This is a guy that has really, really good hands, and this offense knows in these types of situations, if they can just find a way to get him involved, he can go score.
They'll try to add another to their lead. And the extra point puts them on top 21-7. They put it in the end zone with a 12-play scoring drive. So the kickoff team will come out after they turn in a score on that last drive. And he's coming out of the end zone. Nice job by the kickoff team. Everybody stayed in their lanes, and they'll stop him at the 16. And the offense takes the field eager to go back to work. Makes the grab over the middle. Crosses the 30. He's got away. They finally make the stop, and it's been this way this guy's whole career as a senior makes a play after the grab.
How nice is it as a quarterback that you don't have to throw post routes to get great stats? No, I can just throw it quickly to one of the fastest players in the entire nation and let him burn this defense.
How about that last big play? You're backed up, and now you've got it 1st and 10 from the 46. He breaks a tackle, and he showed himself to be a regular Spinderella, but not a lot of room to run.
And that wasn't a big gain, but look at the offense. Right back on the ball, ready to call a play, ready to go fast.
Out of the gun, the inside handoff, looking for a crease. And a nice solid pickup there before the defense wrestles him to the ground. They'll try to move the chains on the ground. And how does he keep running? I'd be dizzy after a spin move like that. It's 1st and 10. They've moved it to the 41. Looking to pass. It's Dixon. It's complete to the right. And the defense had that one well covered. Just a short game there. Clock ticks across the 4-minute mark here in the 3rd.
How nice is it in this offense to have your best receiver playing in the slot? You're matching him up against linebackers, against safeties, or nickel corners. Nickel corners are oftentimes the defense's 3rd best cornerback. This guy is virtually uncoverable.
And, man, the big fellas up front, they don't get a lot of credit. They don't get talked about a lot unless it's negative, but they're the big component, man. They've got to get some push, to get some running lanes, get this running game going. They're the ones that make it go.
Off the RPO, throw right, looking for the chains. Facing this double-digit deficit here in the second half. Almost a no-brainer to go for it on fourth down. He'll try to throw and pick up the first down. Grab near the sticks. It's Diggs. And the defense makes the immediate tackle, but he has enough for the first down. Wants to throw on first down. Forced out of the pocket. Breaks into the open. A really nice run and gain, and he gets down to avoid taking punishment. First and goal, and this feels like their chance to make a game of it. Into the end zone. Steps into the end zone for a touchdown. Timely decisions, effective play management helps them get in the end zone after that marathon drive.
And every time the offense needed a play, boom, they got it. I mean, you think about it. Whether it was a small run, small pass, whatever they needed, they got it done, and then popped it in for the score.
Ready to try the point after. And the PAT will draw them 1 point closer. So a drive there of 85 yards, and they close the deal with the 7-yarder for the score. He'll bring it back from inside his 5. He was looking for more running room, but none to be found as he stopped at the 23. This drive opens up at the 23-yard line. They'll try to pop the draw. Finds his way ahead for 5, and now they've got it at the 28. Got 6 on first down. Now a lot of options on second and 4. They give it to him again. Dragged down, but they'll move the sticks for a first down. They moved the chains on the ground last time. Let's see if they try to hit him up top. Looking left. And he drops it. Just took his eye off of it at the last minute. Try to make up for some of that lost ground on second down. Single back formation, and they give it to him. And he's to the 48-yard line. That'll be good enough for a first down. They'll need to show urgency to get another play off before the clock hits 0. Wants to throw on first down off the play fake. Looking down the middle. And the shot play downfield falls harmlessly to the turf, and we've played 3 quarters. Not only is the scoreboard on their side, but so too is time as we open the 4th. And a chance to mull things over. Let's see how they start the final period here on second down. Fires to the middle. And that pass will be jarred loose on second down. That brings up third down. Trying to pick up a first down. Brown wants to pass. Throws to the wideout. And it's taken away by the defense, and they desperately needed that turnover. And he's wrapped up after a solid return on the pick.
Well, this offense is trying to ice the game. They've got the lead here in the 4th quarter, but it's only by 1 possession, so you've got to be so careful with your decision-making. And that was not a good one by the quarterback. They now turn it over, and they better hope their defense can play well in this sudden change situation.
And the offense takes over to dip into its bag of ball plays. Off the play fake on first down to throw. And it falls in complete. But it could have been much, much worse as the defender was right there. Couldn't connect on first down. Now back to the air. Not quite in rhythm there. Incomplete. It'll be 3rd and long.
consistent, and he's got good hands. You don't see him put a lot of balls on the ground. Nice job there picking up the first down.
Makes the grab almost to the first down marker, but a good pickup on that one. They'll go up top on second and short. Fires it beautifully in on the crosser. Tackle is made at the 27. Let's give him 10 yards on the play, and it is enough for a first down. Out of the crowd, and now he's got room. And maybe he'll get back to the line of scrimmage, but no more than that. Behind the chains now on second and long. Back to pass. Bringing the heat. Now adjusting. Going to try to get it himself. They get him on the ground, but not before he rumbles all the way to the 5.
You got to keep drives alive late in the game. When you're starting to get the fourth quarter and it's a one-score game, you got to do whatever you can as that quarterback to scramble around, get extra plays, extra first downs. Really nice job there by the QB.
And guys, if they can make their way into the end zone, we'll have a tie game in the fourth, and the stage will be set for a great finish. They'll dial up the run on first and goal. And yes, he's in the end zone for the touchdown. Precision blocking up front created the open lane, and the running back followed it beautifully.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to follow an offensive line that makes those holes and just gives you a caravan all the way to the end zone. What an unbelievable job blocking up front.
The extra point here would tie the game. And the extra point was good, and we are all tied up in the fourth. Kickoff unit is out there again, and this crowd is feeling themselves after that last drive. Bringing it out. Didn't find any crease in that kickoff coverage, and he'll be stopped at the 17. Game is tied. Just a few minutes to play, and we'll see if this defense can stop a scoring drive. Brown will throw it. A little too much on that one, just out of his reach. Backed up now. Here's second and long. Looking to fire. Pocket breaking down. And the pressure gets it back at the 8-yard line.
That defender just was better in his one-on-one pass rush. He does a great job being the offensive line to get to the QB.
Now a lot of work to do to move the chains, keep this drive alive after that earlier sack. On third and long, he'll need to loosen up that arm. The clock has stopped, and we've reached the 2-minute timeout. And here comes the punt team. 3 and out, and not much choice but to get rid of the ball. Not able to pop the big return, but they've got the ball back and ready to go with a fresh possession. So, guys, we'll see this offense again. From the gun, leaves it on the inside with the back. You'll take this every time. 5 yards on the first down play. Trying to get everybody set with the clock still running. He'll go to work in the air on second down. Lots of room to throw that one in there. And you can see the offense just feeling itself. They've got it down to the 21. Out of the gun, they'll run it inside. Really good running, gets it into the red zone, and they'll have it at the 16. Timeout called here by the defense. It's the first one they've used this half. They'll move the tight end. The give to the tailback. They went right back to him, and this time the defense was all over him. Nothing to show for that run. Line is set on third down. Dropping back, it's Dixon. Quick completion on the out. Defense makes a stop, but the chains move, and it's first and goal from the 8.
they've got a quarterback, David. It's just going to have to come down to some good old-fashioned heroics, right? You can't take a sack. You're going to have to buy time, and you're going to have to make some incredible throws.
Buy some time and show off that cannon because he's going to have to throw this thing a long way down the field and get really, really lucky.
And the offense here dialed up a really good zone beater. Give credit to the offensive coordinator. He called the right play at the right time.
Well, first of all, I really wish I could get that capture card dialed in because the colors are so much more vibrant on my TV screen than what you guys are seeing. But uh, s- great game, such a great game. Really wonderful come from behind victory there by Terrebonne, coming back after falling behind there in the first half. Very costly turnovers for both teams, as it turned out. Terrebonne had a costly turnover there at the end of the first half, and then Thibodaux with their costly turnover in the fourth quarter. Really good game. Both teams carving things up through the air in this one. Uh, Thibodeau definitely played one of their better games of the season after dropping a couple earlier in this season. So let's take a look at the stats real quick. Once again, can't keep track of stats from week to week. So at the end of each game, I like to go through the stats for anyone that wants to keep track at home. Brian Dixon, insane here, 31 of 35, 268 yards passing, two touchdowns, no interceptions. He also did a little more with his legs than what we normally see him do. He's pretty much a straight up pocket passer, but 38 yards rushing on the ground plus a touchdown. He really utilized his legs a lot more than what we normally see. Kenyatta here, Kenyatta Celestine, 17 carries for 70 yards. Pretty good day on the ground, solid running plus a touchdown. We didn't see much from the other guys running the ball. Receiving wise, Alvin Celestine, of course, the big target, 10 receptions for 170 yards. And then some of the other guys here that we're going to take a look at. Crochet, the tight end, with two big touchdown catches for them. And then Celestine had a few, Kenyatta, that is, the running back, had a few catches out the backfield as well. Go on to our blocking stats real quick before we move on to the defensive stats. Not a big day in terms of sacks. We had Kurt Boudreaux with a couple of sacks in this game, but other than that, both offensive lines did a really good job of holding off these very potent defenses. Both of these defensive fronts have players on there that really disrupt a lot of teams' passing games. But here's the interception, by the way. But both offensive lines really did a good job of containing these defensive lines, these defensive fronts, and not allowing a whole lot of sacks in this game. No field goal stats to look at, and then there's the punting stats. Only one punt for Terrebonne. Let's move to the Thibodaux stats real quick. And again, big day passing, carving them up offense through the air. Not quite as effective as Dixon was for Terrebonne, but still 24-37, 64%. That's nothing to sneeze at. 286 yards passing, two touchdowns. He did have the one costly interception there in the fourth quarter. Rushing, Tremaine Johnson, solid day, 14 carries for 60 yards and a touchdown run. He did have some sack yardage here, so there you got the minus 21 coming from the sack. I don't think he actually ran, so I think those are all. I think that's all sack yardage, if I'm not mistaken. I don't believe he took off and ran at any point. Lance Bergeron, man, he was tough to stop in this game, particularly early on. 10 catches for 100 yards, 101 actually, and then Roland Joseph with the big touchdown catch that he had, and then another touchdown catch here from the fullback, surprisingly out the backfield. There's some of the other stats for receiving. We'll move on to blocking real quick. Take a quick look at that before we go to the defensive stats. And again, not a big day. Normally, you see Sanchez down here. Normally, he's lighting things up on that defensive front, and they really contained him in this game. Terrebonne did a good job. He got a couple of tackles, but none for a loss. He wasn't really in the backfield very often, and didn't get any sacks. So that was interesting. In fact, I don't see any. Did I overlook it? No, I don't see any sacks registered for Thibodaux at all. They did have a fumble recovery. Let's see, forced fumble recovery. There's a forced fumble, and this is the gentleman that recovered it there at the end of the first half. All right, and kicking stats, once again, nothing to look at in terms of field goals. Punting stats, only 2 punts for Thibodaux, and that does it. All right, so Terrebonne, this was a game where in real life you would certainly consider putting in your backups and just letting the backups play since this one doesn't affect the standings one way or the other. Um, I would have liked to have done that, to be honest with you, but again, having to use these play now modes, there's no way for me to do that without going in and actually physically moving the players myself. And then by doing that, of course, you have to go in and you have to select plays and run a play before you can move to the other team. So it's just a big mess. I didn't want to mess with any of that. And, being that this is a rivalry game and both of these teams would probably be playing for pride anyway, and Terrebonne was certainly playing for the opportunity to go undefeated, which they remain undefeated on the season for the perfect season. Just let them play through like they would. And again, with the play now mode that we're in, we don't carry over any injuries. So there's no real threat of anyone getting injured and being knocked out and unavailable for the playoffs coming up. So really nothing to risk here in this situation. In real life, though, that might be something that these teams would have considered. But we're in video game land, so that is it for that game. A very exciting game. I think it gave us everything we expected. Very close down to the wire, and it was really exciting to see this one. So I really enjoyed this game. It'll be interesting to see what happens when these two teams, if these two teams face each other in the playoffs, because this is a game that could go either way, as we saw. So, all right, that does it for game one tonight. We're going to move on to the next game here in just a second. Let me go ahead and go to my screen here, my pause screen. I'm going to get things set up for the final game tonight, and we'll be right back.